Okay. So, this is the messy kitchen. Yes. Yes, it is. And can you let me know that you are hearing me yet? I've been noticing that live streams take a minute to upload. Sorry, I'm looking at the computer screen over here so I can, because I am looking at the little box. Oh, okay, cool. I'm on. All right. Well, this is, you know that I just do what's going on my little bit of land. All about growing food, foraging, preserving the harvest, hunting, you know, all those types of things. And I stay away from any news. Let's just put it that way. So there's other channels for that. And looks like someone else just went live. Anyway, sorry, I'm using my phone, so I'm getting my notifications across it. But it's been weighing kind of heavy on my heart here lately to talk about a little bit about preparedness. Obviously, there is tons and tons of channels that devote every video to that. But I don't know why, I just feel it's just time for me to say a little bit about it. I will avoid certain words or speak in code because the algos will zap you and do all kinds of crazy things to you. So anyway, just want to talk a little bit. Like I said, you know I do the gardening. Just a update on the garden. It's crap. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to be honest. It has been terrible. Everything in the spring did great. If you've seen the videos, we got right at 69 pounds of onions. And I've already been working on those and working them up. So this is for perspective. Got quite a few, a lot of the little ones. So don't think they're all blooming onions, but they will be. But you can see, oh, probably can't see. You can see the canner in the background. French onion soup has already happened. Just because I wanted to make sure that I got some of the onions that didn't look like they would keep very long. I just wanted to go ahead and do something with those, and there's a few, you know, we're just using them. So, yeah, no, May happened. The spring was wet, so I couldn't get in there and get the garden retilled up and ready for the summer crops. So when it finally dried up enough, the tomatoes were about 3 weeks late going in, and then the waterworks turned off. So that is farm life, right? So you win some, you lose some. And that's why you always hope for a bumper crop from the year before to make it through. So the tomatoes are puny. I'm like, look at this. This is tiny. At least for me. Now, Dad, they got hundreds of pounds of tomatoes. But the heat, when it dried up and the sun just got stupid in June, I've never seen a tomato literally blister. You know, like when you go out and get sunburnt, and then a couple days you get the little water blisters. That's exactly what was happening to basically the east side of the tomatoes. They were, I mean, literally just big old blisters on the side of the tomatoes. So he lost a lot, but I gained quite a bit. So I was able to put a bunch of salsa on the shelf by salvaging tomatoes from his garden. But I still have plenty of sauce and pizza sauce and tomatoes canned up from last year. Luckily, I still have 2 gallons that I froze at the end of the summer. And hopefully we'll get some peppers. Right now, they're looking like this too. Yeah. So June went dry. We had about 5 or so weeks of no rain. Watering as much as I could off of my rain catchment system. And then now for the past, we're getting ready to go on 3 weeks. It rains every darn day. Inches at a time. So it is a slap jungle out there. Yeah. But in the meantime, we've been working on another project, which I will film hopefully soon, because they will, the new surprise. I just won't talk about that one. But anyway, that's how my summer has gone. Kind of, you know, not as busy with canning and gardening because you just can't do it. Of course, we've got pickles. I've done pickles out of the cucumbers that I did get. Put up green beans. I got 1 run off of that before the heat just killed it. I mean, it wasn't even as hot as it normally gets. It was something about the sun was just too intense this year. So that's something that I will be preparing for next year. And I will be reworking some garden plans and making some purchases to help protect the garden next year. I believe that will help tremendously. Shade cloth, really, just to obviously let the sun and the rain in, but keep some of that intense sun rays off of those tender plants as they're growing, because it was brutal this year if you were out there. But like I said, I want to talk about a little bit about preparedness. As you know, gosh, turn on the news, right? It's it's something else. Or look elsewhere for your news is what I would recommend. But so many things have happened in the last couple of weeks, as we know. Even this week. And I don't know why, I just feel that I need to let you know that there are just some things that I would be doing here, and I hope that others would do the same. I mean, fight inflation for one thing. Gosh, when I decided to do the French onion soup the other night, I'd been working on it for 2 days anyway, or the night before, and I came right home from work and was going to can it up for the night. The hubby was home and asked for me to stop at Taco Bell, and I said, okay, what do you want? And we just got a 12-pack of tacos. I will never do that again. Ever. Tacos from Taco Bell. 12 was $28. Holy cow. What? So, especially when I've already got ground deer on the shelf, you know. Yeah, it would take me another 30 minutes or whatever to put it together, but I was trying not to make a mess in the kitchen because I needed to get it, you know, everything sterile and ready for canning. I already had plenty to do that night, but I really just about considered ditching on that order if there weren't people in front of and behind me. That was beyond ridiculous. So anyway, fight inflation. Eat at home. And what I suggest as far as eating at home, you need to just stock up on the basics. And obviously don't do anything that you would not normally eat. But you eat bread, you eat cakes and pies, cookies, muffins, all the pancakes. If you get fancy and learn how to make your own tortillas, which I'm trying to do myself actually. The basics. So you've got to have flour, you got to have salt, eggs. Of course, that's a fresh item. But your basic baking ingredients: flour, salt, some type of fat, whether it's butter or lard or oil. For rising, you're going to need yeast, baking soda, and baking powder. There are so many things you can do with just those ingredients. That is a base for anything. You want salt. Everybody needs salt. And of course, if you're a canner like me, you want to get, canning salt. It stores just like that forever. Just like that. But for your everyday salt, you just want to get regular salt. I use sea salt, but I also have iodized salt. Any spices that you like to use regularly, you can change up anything with spice and just change the flavor of anything. Sugar. Of course, I'm a canner. So if you're a canner, you go through a lot of sugar. A simple jelly recipe or jam recipe can go 6 cups of sugar. So I purchase 25-pound bags. It's cheaper. You don't need to do anything special. I do recommend when you're buying bags that size, you want to put it in a container that won't, bug-free, water-free container. And that's what I got. So it's just a big bucket. With a lid. And you can pick up the food grade containers at Lowe's. They're not as cheap as they used to be. But they have a little label that's food grade on the side. You can also, used to be able to win like grocery stores. This is not about food storage. Basically, I'm not going to get too far in depth on food storage or anything like that. But that's in my kitchen. That stays in the pantry because I use that. I normally dip it out of a small container that we keep sugar in to use, for a recipe, or we're in the South, sweet tea, right? But sugar. Lots of things call for sugar. And there are other ways to sweeten things. Honey, obviously. As long as you keep air out of it, it'll keep indefinitely. Like I said, this isn't about food storage. This is about just having the basics. I just feel like you need to have the basics on hand. Now, I currently buy my flour, just 5-pound bags of flour whenever I need it. But I also have wheat, so I can grind my own flour. Better for you, obviously, because it's not been bleached. It's not been, altered in any way until you go to grind it, and then it's whatever you make of it. But that's basic baking ingredients. Now, everybody always tells you beans and rice, beans and rice, beans and rice. And, you know, those are good things to have. I will not deny that. I use rice quite a bit, and I love pinto beans. So I could make a meal. We call it, growing up, poor man's supper. Is just pinto beans, fried taters, cornbread, and that's all you have to have. Then on occasion you throw in some okra on the side. But that was what we called poor man's supper growing up. Super simple. You know, Mom would make a pot of pintos like on Saturday night for Sunday dinner, and then we'd have it whenever throughout the week. I love them. So you can't go wrong with beans and rice. But I just... Alright. Basically, what are you... I'm not preparing for any one thing. But if you live in the South or like anywhere this year, emergencies come up all the time. And let's talk about weather emergencies and a couple of different aspects of being prepared for weather emergency. For instance, with my work recently, we were affected, even though we were over here on the East Coast, we were affected by the hurricane that hit Texas a few weeks ago because of supply, the supply chain, because of their power outage. And those poor people, there were, what, 10 days? A week, 2 weeks in Texas without, you know, electricity. And I mean, can you imagine being without 100 degrees and no air conditioning? So how are you going to get through that? You know, like I said, I'm trying to pick my words here. How can I say it? Okay, we'll go phonetic. So golf, Oscar, Victor. You know, those that reside a little further north, they tell you to have at least 3 days of food and water for an emergency. And those poor people were without power for 12 days. And several places there in the vicinity were without power. And it's great to have a generator. But if the gas station in your town is out of power, there's no gas. So how long is that generator going to last? And honestly, unless you have a gas fueled or a dual fuel generator where you have a constant flow of propane or natural gas into that generator, how long is that thing going to last? And is it going to run an air conditioner and all of your normal, you know, day-to-day needs? Those are things you need to think about. I mean, it was literally a Category 1 hurricane that put them down for weeks. And we're talking businesses. So I can't imagine what the people outside of the city limits were dealing with for that long. Our power went out, what was it, the end of July? No, we didn't per se have a tornado here. It didn't hit here. It was in the area, and it knocked out, you know, a lot of the power lines because of the wind and everything. So we were without power at the end of July, so it's upper 90s. Sometime that afternoon, it was like 24 hours. So I stayed home from work, took a vacation day, and stayed home to keep my generator running, to keep my food in my refrigerators and my freezer up. You know, I couldn't imagine having, if we had to go any longer than that. Of course, we didn't have power out everywhere. I could have gone somewhere and gotten gas if I needed to, but luckily I had enough gas here to run the generator for those 24 hours. Now, I didn't run it that night because it makes so much noise, and obviously you don't want to borrow trouble on that one. But it was quite warm in here, I'm not going to lie. But as long as I sat under the ceiling fan, because I couldn't run the air conditioner, because our generator is not going to pull that kind of energy. I can't run the stove. So for that day, I just took some things that luckily I had leftovers and I was able to eat that. But I took a pot, little metal pot, put water in it, put some tea bags in it, and stuck it out on the hood of the car and made tea to have for that day. And then what did I do? Oh, I took another pot, put water in it, put my rice in it, put a lid on it with aluminum foil wrapped around it, and stuck it on top of the car. That was my dinner that night. I cooked up the rice. And luckily right after that, the power came on, so I didn't have to go too much longer without power. But I can't imagine going much longer in the dead of summer. You just have to sit outside. I mean, to be honest with you, you just have to sit under a tree and do very little, pretty much, if you had no power. But there are other ways. And I remember, gosh, I don't remember Hugo. What was it, 88 or 89? Hurricane Hugo came through where I lived at the time. And at that time, it came in as a Category 5 when it hit and made landfall. But by the time it hit us inland of North Carolina, it was still a Category 3. So we were without power for 5 days, I believe. And that was in September, and it wasn't very hot then. But we had, outdoor grill. We cooked a lot off of that. They lost a little bit in the freezer or whatever, but we started cooking things that needed to be cooked and tried to, keep that, all your refrigerators and everything is closed as much as possible. But there are other alternatives. I have a camp stove. We used to camp a lot when my kid was young, so we would go camping every year. So I have one of those little Coleman stoves with the little 1 pound canisters. So that's a quick and easy, without power in that kind of situation due to a weather event and you don't have any power to fire up a stove if you don't have, and you could theoretically use that inside. I would open a window, but yes, you can use that inside. Another alternative to having a small cooking source, and these are actually fairly inexpensive. I know you guys have all seen chafing dishes. This is, I actually just found this recently. I've been looking for one, and you'll see that in another video I've been making. But it's a little, there you go, you can see it now. It just folds up, and you put one little sterno can in it. Sternos usually last about 6 hours, I believe, as long as you have a match or a lighter, and that concentrates the heat into that one space. So a small pot, you'll be able to heat it up a lot faster and cook a simple one pot, one dish meal. And you can get these. I actually had these. I grabbed them to show you at, I believe that's Sam's Club. So they're fairly inexpensive. So that would certainly get you through a few days of cooking, making a meal for yourself or your family. Obviously not very quickly, and it's going to be very simple. Another option, obviously, is if you have, a gas grill or a charcoal grill, you can cook quickly, obviously, on those, but you also have to remember to have your propane filled and have, charcoal on hand. Those are, I think, of course, if you have a fire pit, who doesn't have fire pits now? If you have a piece of property, most people have a little fire pit because they just hang out by them and they think they're cool. Well, you can cook, man did start, cooking lots of years ago, and it was just with wood. So you can do that. The only thing I really haven't figured out how to do without power, I haven't had to do it yet, I'm sure I can, is, obviously canning. At some point, if you're without power for too long without, your freezers, I would have to start canning quickly. I know my grandparents and my parents grew up canning on open flame, water bath canning. So it certainly can be done. Just takes a little bit longer. Meat, they didn't do that. From what my parents told me, they didn't can meat back then. They didn't have a pressure canner. It was on the stove or on the wood fire. And I know my pressure canner will not stand an open flame. So I'll have to do the grill or, and you really shouldn't put that type of canner on a, what do you call it? Like the turkey fryer. We have one of those because that's what we use when we do the chickens. Darn, what's it called, y'all? The burner, the propane burner. Oh gosh, Lord mercy. An all-American canner, because it's so heavy duty, it will withstand that inconsistent heat of, actual flame on it. So that's another option, is a, like I said, the propane burner. You can cast iron. Oh my gosh, cast iron, you're going to have cast iron if you're going to have to use alternative heat sources outside. I don't know, what else? There are several things. I didn't have a list of anything like that, but I just wanted to talk about, like I said, it's just been weighing heavy on my heart lately. Give me a second. I don't normally talk this long. Just with everything that's going on, and of course, if you know me, obviously I'm a little nervous about everything that's going on, and starting to get a little hot on the other side of the world. Another way to say this would be Whiskey Alpha Romeo, or if you didn't understand that, if you got sign language, I got a couple of languages there for you. Because obviously my kid's in service, and I don't even want to think about that kind of stuff yet, but those kinds of things just make me nervous lately. Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to think about that. But there's just all types of things. And like I said, going back to preparedness, obviously you want to have food. You need water. They tell you 1 gallon per person per day. I believe you should probably look at more like at least 2 or 3. You want to drink 1 gallon. But then if you got food, you need to have water for your food. And then, I personally like to brush my teeth every day. So, and at least get a some type of clean person, on the daily. So that's what I am. I would suggest more like 3 gallons per person per day. And like I said, that is a lot. Or at least have an alternative source of water and a way to purify that water, whether it is boiling it, um, sterilizing it, however, there are all kinds of water filtration systems. I believe there are iodine tabs. For camping, we used to do that. Life straw, Sawyer minis. There's all types of things out there nowadays. I know money's tight for a lot of people. Don't go crazy, but you need to have the basics in life. And like I said, I feel like everyone needs to have some type of basic ingredients in their home. Like I said, you don't have to do like me and can up everything you got growing out there. But for me, having it on the shelf, it's safe unless we have some crazy earthquake or something, then that'll be a problem for a lot of people, right? That's something you really can't plan for. I mean, there are ways I can plan for that. I could put some kind of bungee cords or something around that, I guess. There are ways I can plan around that. Those are things I need to think about. But like I said, I have a generator, and it's gas powered. I'm looking, and I should have already done this by now. I want one of those small little, I guess they're called battery bank, or it's like a little solar. It can be solar power, but that way, like I said, you don't really want to run your generator at night because everybody hears it and you're asleep. But you can bring those little mini portable power banks. That's what they're called. In and plug in your refrigerator and your freezer to keep things cold and running through the night. There are so many things I really wanted to talk about. Obviously, your basics in life, right? You learn this: food, water, shelter, right? Clothes. Make sure you have your clothes. Make sure you keep your clothes clean. You don't want to have half your summer wardrobe in the dirty clothes, and then you're in a freak storm of some sort, and you have no power for a week. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to get out there and start scrubbing? You might have to. So make sure you have the things for those. Or the way to wash those things by hand. Have that water. And a way to hang them up. Because now you have no power. Because your washer and your dryer require just as much power to run as your air conditioner. So you won't be running 220 on your little portable generator. Another thing I guess would be, so we talked about hurricanes. That's kind of a, immediate, if you're inland, obviously if you're in the eye of the storm, Hurricane Alley, you need to, all the things to prepare for. But here lately we've had crazy tornadoes or wildfires. And there's really nothing you can really do for those. The only thing that I would suggest to be prepared for is to have a bag with, a copy of all your personal information or your important documents, and a couple of changes of clothes somewhere handy. That way, if, for God forbid, you're in the path of a wildfire and they say you got to go now, or you've got 15 minutes to go, at least you have, you know, a bag for each person in your household with clothes, some your identification of some sort, shoes, all that, and you can just get in your car and go. Um, God forbid you're in a tornado, um, and your house, you know, is destroyed, and you're having to pick through the rubble, but at least you have that bag, and that'll get you through the first couple of days while you know, figure out what the next step is. At least you have something, and you have proof that this is your house, and this is where you live, and this is who you are. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't talk this much. Those are just a couple of things on that I would like to talk about, or I wanted to say. Have a way have something ready if you had to leave your house in an emergency situation. Um, it's just ready to go. Another thing, something else that recently happened close to me. Um, my mom fell and had an accident, and basically a medical emergency. And I know what to do. But when she called, she just said she fell. It wasn't until I got to their house and I see her that this is more than a medical emergency. She has fallen. This is whole. We got to go to the hospital, and so from now on, I will be grabbing. If she calls and tells me to come there, I have fallen, I will be grabbing my first aid kit, so I can do the things to at least stop the bleed, or compress the bleed enough to get to a medical facility. That was bad. That was very bad, and it could have been a heck of a lot worse. So I'm very thankful that it was not. But just always be prepared for stuff like that if you have, especially older or aging. I don't definitely don't call my parents elderly, because they are all out straight all the time. They are not sitting. I mean, you've seen their garden. It's a 2-acre garden, market garden. They work in their late 70s, so they're not sitting down. Now, I've learned a lot from them, and I always wondered why, when I was a kid, that I didn't have to ever worry. You know, we went to the grocery store every week, but there was always food on the shelf, in the pantry, the freezer, the refrigerator. They canned, and I always wondered why. But as I got not later in life, but you know, as I got older, teenager, 20s, and everything, and talking about and learning how they grew up, that was just the way of life. I mean, their parents went through the Depression. So, and they were, I wouldn't say dirt poor, but definitely not. They were poor. They both grew up in large families. So, and they, like I said, they gardened. They lived off the land a lot. So when they got out on their own and started doing good, you know, they put away, and there was just always food. So they didn't want to be where they were, but they learned from, their parents and grandparents how it was when times got tough and people were out of work, and literally the depression. We all know um, what happened back then. So basically, I learned from them how to be prepared for, things, and to get through, tough times in life without even knowing that that's what it was called, being prepared, or preparedness, or whatever the buzzword is, I guess what it is. It's just, that was just the way of life. So it's just how it is. I mean, it's nothing new for my family. Yeah, I don't know. A little more history on me, I guess. For those that don't know me, what else? There are just so many things. But if you know, there's one other thing, I guess, I would like to say about being prepared. You got your home and you got your person. Spiritually prepared. And this can go either way for a lot of people, and this can just go right down the drain for others. And there's just so many things, and I've heard it my entire life, going to church, and it's any day now, it's going to happen, and things like that. But I tell you what, if you look more, and a lot of people can say that, you look back in history, and there were those people then saw, what was happening then. They thought it was the end, and I'm not saying it's the end. I don't think there's really. This might. Ooh, I might stick my toe in something. Oh, I don't know if I want to stick my toe in this one. Goodness. Let's put it this way: there are many terms in the good book, in the Bible, that the Lord tells the people to prepare and be prepared, like the virgins in the oil. When they half the virgins ran out of oil, had to turn back, and the other half that had plenty got to see him. And then there's many times, there's another place in there, and I'm not going to get too in depth in this, but it tells you to, store up. He told them to store up for 7 years. Store up for 7 years for the 7 years of lean. So, I mean, you can take that however you want. That's the way I look at it. Another place in the Bible, it just tells me that I want to be the ant. Darn it. I want to be the ant. I don't want to be a grasshopper laying around during the summer, just whiling away his time. And then when it comes time to winter and there ain't nothing left and nothing around for him, what's he going to do? He's going to go begging to the ant. No. I'm going to keep digging. I'm going to keep being the ant. That's what I want to be. I want to be the ant. So, anyway, just look around. This is terrible. Right now I have a good job and I'm thankful for it. But you never know. Tomorrow or a month down the road, something happens. I'm either incapacitated and I can't work, or something happens with my work. What am I going to do then? At least I won't have to worry about extreme food prices, because I'll at least be able to eat for a bit. Not a whole long time, but I've got food on my shelf that I've canned and stored up. Well, I wouldn't say store up because we eat it all the time, but you know what I mean. You just don't know. There's all kinds of things that anything can happen. Anything can happen before midnight tonight. Whether it's a storm, you know, wildfires for some people, um, you know, or they go to work tomorrow and the doors are closed. At least, you know, if you have some things put away, you have alternatives, it buys you a little more time. So, anyway, I know I've rambled on and I've just kind of gone all over the spectrum. I didn't really have a guideline to go off of, and I'm just kind of going off top of my head on some stuff. And this is not my normal video. Obviously, I'm normally canning or gardening or something, right? But to let you know, that's staples. Staple foods, staple items. That's what I would recommend. And being a little more aware of here's another thing I guess I didn't really cover, that because if you look at the news and things, like I said, that's gone on just in the past week, you know, evil people and bad people are all around, and I'm not gonna say one person or another because everyone has got something in them. So all I can tell you is just be aware of your surroundings wherever you go. If you're a lady, don't go out alone. That's just personal opinion. Or at least shopping, and obviously you're going to go to work and you've got to stop and get gas, but you know, shopping or the grocery store, or exercising and running. It irks me to no end to see these people running and they have these earbud headphone things in and they just have no clue what's going on around them. You've seen many stories of people getting snatched up, hurt. It's just bad business. So just be more aware of your surroundings when you're out and about. That's pretty much it I want to say on that one. So anyway, let me know what you think. If there was, obviously there's so many things I could say, but I am not that channel. There are many other channels out there that full on go so in depth on everything. And I could, but that's not what my channel is about. But this was it's just been weighing heavy on my heart lately. Darn it. I'm just going ahead and say it. I was brought up in the rapture. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's going to happen, and that's going to be the thing. And you ain't going to be here. You ain't going to be here to see all the bad stuff to happen. That would be awesome if that happened, if that were the case. But for some reason, I don't think it is. So I gotta prepare myself and my heart for enduring those hard times and bad things that could happen. So that's what I'm doing. So, anyway, I can't believe I've talked for almost an hour. about nothing but a lot. So, like I said, get your staples. And if you like comfort things, you know, if you just get some cocoa powder, just cocoa, plain old cocoa powder, you can take that sugar and that flour and those eggs, and mix all that up, and you got yourself some brownies or a cake, or just take that cocoa powder and milk or water and a little bit of sugar, and you got hot cocoa. So, you know, if you're into comfort food, you have to have that comfort. Uh, put cocoa on your list of baking and kitchen staples. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you for hanging out with me. Um, just look around, think about it, and see what, pray about it and see where it leads you. That's what I would say. All right, guys. Hope you have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. And as always, many blessings.